Om. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmani Savilasa Mahamoha Grahak Grasaika Karmani. Okay, let's read the verses that we covered last time. We're going to read from verse 51 to 55, to 56 actually, to 56, right? So 51 to 56, let's read that. Bodhadurdvam cha tadheyam Jivan mukti prasiddhaye Kamadiklesha bandhena Yuktasya nahi muktata Jivan muktiriyam ma bhut Janma bhavetvaham kriti Tarhi janma pitestveva Swargamatrat kriti bhavan Kshayatishayadoshena Swargo heyo yada tada Swayam doshatayatmayam Kamadih kim nahiyate Tattvam buddhvapi kamadi Nishesham na jahasi chet Yatheshta charanam te syat Karma shastrati langhinaha Buddhadvaita swatatvasya Yatheshta charanam yadi Shunam tattvadrisham chaiva Ko bhedo shuchi bhakshani Bodhat puramano dosha matrat klishnasyatadhuna asheshaloka ninda cheti ahote bodha vaibhavam. So here, now in chapter 4, what's happening here is the Siddhantin, the Vedantin says, look, in order to have Jivan Mukti, liberation while living, these two should be given up. What should be given up? First is the aśāstrīya jīva sṛṣṭi, meaning that creation of jiva that is in accordance with the shastras, which is shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam. Once one has knowledge of the self, that is to be given up. In the sense that one doesn't need to study to be enlightened anymore, because one is naturally enlightened, but can study to revel in the scriptures if they feel like. But it's not a compulsory, it's not a compulsion. In fact, too many words will actually inhibit one's realization. So that is to be given up after knowledge, but there's something which is to be given up even before knowledge, which is aśāstrīya jīva sṛṣṭi. That jīva sṛṣṭi, or the creation of jiva, which is not in accordance to scriptures. And of them, there are two types. One is called tīvra, which is a strong type, and manda, the weak type. The strong type, or tīvra, is kama. It's these desires. Kama, krodha, anger, desire, anger, greed, pride, delusion. All of these things are to be given up, even before one comes to study. And also the weak type, the manda type, which is manorajya, dwelling on objects, that is to be given up. Because if we don't give these up, it's very difficult to come to Shravanam in the first place. It's very difficult to listen to this knowledge. Now this person said, look, I somehow, at the moment the teaching was given, I somehow was blessed through the teacher or through the purity of mind at that time, and I got a breakthrough. I got a glimpse of that knowledge, and that's good enough for me. I don't need to be liberated in my life, in meaning in living. I got a glimpse of that knowledge. I know I'm done. I know I'm not the body. I know this is my last life. I know I'm set. I don't need to deepen this knowledge anymore. I got a glimpse. And so what if I don't have a peaceful mind? It's okay with me. So here, then the Vedantin says, if you say, let there be no liberation in life, jivan mukti, meaning let not the fruit of liberation come alive, that peaceful mind, that peaceful life, let it not come alive. Why don't you just enjoy heavenly pleasures and just, because clearly you're not eligible, clearly you're not liberated. You think you're liberated, but really you're not. Because somebody who's enlightened would never ever think this way. They would never ever think that, I still have remnants of anger and pride and lust and greed. Let them be, it's okay. Somebody who's enlightened will never think like that. So the Vedantin said, even if they're remnants, we have to work on them. It's not something that you can just let happen, because they can cause a lot of trouble. If this is the case, then just, go to heavenly realms, but this is not enlightenment. And the Purva Pakshin says, I don't want to go to heavenly worlds because there's so many defects there. There's so many defects. There's gradation, there's favoritism, there's people who are closer to God, people who are further from God. I don't want to go to any heavenly worlds. The Vedantin says, if you see defects in heavenly worlds, why don't you see defects in desire itself? There's so many defects in desire. And he says, the Vedantin says, if you transgress the laws of dharma and are self-willed, you will transgress the scriptures. Yateshta charanam. You will just live how you feel like living. If you do that, what's the difference between you and the dog? Right? What's the difference between this kind of person and a dog? Because the dog has no viveka, has no discernment, just eats feces. It really eats whatever's there. And there's no difference between a dog and this kind of person who feels like, it's okay, let me still live with desire, anger, pride, lust, greed, delusion. Let me still live with that. It's okay. So the Vedantin gets upset. He says, you might as well be like a dog. And before that, that particular person had just the dosha, or the defect of desire, of greed, of anger, etc. But now they also have the defect of censure, of criticism, because people are saying, how can this person be like this? This person claims to have knowledge of the self, claims to know reality, and yet is acting this way. Not only will one have that, the troubled mind, but one will also have the censure of the whole society. Therefore, wake up. The Vedantin says, wake up. It's not okay. After getting a glimpse of knowledge, we might still have remnants of pride and greed and lust, whatever it is, we might still have remnants, but the way is to really work through them and not just say, it's okay, I'm not the doer, I'm not the enjoyer, I'm not this and I'm not that, so it's okay, let it all be. That's not how to live life. So today we're going to start from verse number 57, where this Vedantin is going to give a message to this kind of person who thinks that, let me live with all these defects. Vidvarahaditulyatvam mākaṅkṣī tattva vidbhavan sarvadhi dosha samtyagat lokaiv pujyasva devavata vidvaharadi tulyatvam. Meaning, vidvahara, vid, vidvaraha means pig. Varaha means boar, vidvaraha means pig. Tulyatvam, mākānkṣi. Mākānkṣi means do not be or do not desire to be tulyatvam, like or similar to vidvaraha, like a pig. Adi means a pig, a dog, etc. Do not desire to be similar to a pig. Tattvavid bhavan, you are the knower of the self. Do not desire to be like a pig. Sarvadhi dosha santyagat. Let go of the defects of the mind. Lokehi, and by the world, pujasva devavat. Be worshipped like a god. Says here, O knower of truth, do not sink to the level of pigs in the sty, freeing yourself from all the defects arising from your mind. Be worshipped by the world like a god. So what we said last time is, it is true that even after a glimpse of knowledge, these defects may arise in the mind. They will not be as strong as before. The desire, that greed, that anger, that jealousy, it will not be as strong as before, but they're remnants or samskaras. And the way the knower of the self approaches that is to work on themselves as a play, not with any pressure or strain, but with relaxation. And they make their life a worship unto divinity. So they engage in spiritual practices to be able to really cleanse themselves, to purify themselves, but not purify themselves to realize their Atman, but really purify themselves to enjoy the result of knowing their Atman. Now there's a difference. They're not anymore purifying themselves so I can get this knowledge. It's not that. Let me purify myself so I can enjoy the result of this knowledge. And the result of this knowledge is a peaceful, equanimous mind. It's a beautiful mind. I shared this story in the Bhagavad Gita class, and I really like it because it shows what a sage is. There was a little boy, and he asked his mom, who is Swami Vivekananda? Basically, there were a lot of people going on a pilgrimage, and they all dressed up like Swami Vivekananda. And this little boy wanted to know, which one is Swami Vivekananda? And the mother said that before the pilgrimage, you see all of them smiling? They're all smiling, right? When they return from the pilgrimage, the one who's still smiling, that one is Swami Vivekananda. When they return, the one who's still smiling is Swami Vivekananda. Because that's what an enlightened being is, very equanimous. It's obvious that the world will be up and down because that's the nature of the world. Heat, cold, joy, sorrow, respect, disrespect, praise, censure. This is the nature of the world. People will come to us, people will go away. But the one who can be absolutely equanimous, that is a mark of an enlightened being. And also the one who's free from desire. Remember, whenever we have a desire for something, we are automatically a slave to it. Because we will do what it takes to get that desire. And if anybody puts that desire in front of us, then it's almost like we will do whatever that person wants because we want that desire. But a wise person, an enlightened being, is never a slave of anybody, doesn't want anything. That's why nobody can tempt them. And that's why they're fearless. They have nothing to lose and they have absolutely nothing to gain. There's nothing you can do with them. You can try to fight with them. You can try to insult them. They have absolutely nothing to lose, absolutely nothing to gain. Therefore, when one gets a glimpse of knowledge, one works on themselves to cultivate this mind. The pig, it sits in physical filth. It's in a pigsty, a real pigsty. Here he's comparing this person who doesn't want to work on their mind to a pig because they sit in a mental pigsty. Imagine the pig sits in a physical pigsty with all that dirt and filth, and this kind of person sits in a mental pigsty with all that dirt and filth. And they're just staying there and thinking that, let me just enjoy life. Huh? Actually, life can only really be enjoyed when we know that we're not the enjoyer. When we know we have nothing to enjoy. Everything is just joy. There's a beautiful Sufi kind of anecdote that I'm going to read to you. And it shows how pure somebody can be. So it said here, Bayazid, he encountered a dog, okay, and started to pull his robe away from it so that the dog doesn't defile him. The dog starts talking in a human voice. If I had been dry, there would have been no purpose in avoiding me. And if I had been wet, you could have washed your robe. But the hate which you have towards me can never be cleansed. And Bayezid said, "O enlightened dog, come and stay with me for a while." The dog answered, "That is impossible, because the world uses me as an epithet, as somebody who's so lowly. And you are regarded by the world as somebody who's a paragon, somebody so highly respected." Bayezid exclaimed, "I am not fit to live with one whom the whole world regards as inferior. How can I therefore approach the truth, which all regard as the highest of all?" Now just see. He himself realizes that I made a mistake. And he says, if I'm not fit to live with somebody who's regarded as the lowest of the lowly, how can I even search or think about the highest truth? A true enlightened being is like that. I remember there was one incident that had with Swami Ramakrishna, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji, of I think he was eating something and he put some spice in it or salt, whatever it was. And one of the devotees said, "Oh, you still have that?" And he gave it up. He said, "You're right, I still have that." And he gave it up. Well, that's a small thing, but that's how an enlightened being would respond. A non-enlightened being would be like, "It's Brahman, so what? It's okay." It's not okay. It's not okay. That purity is absolutely necessary for this knowledge to become alive. Otherwise, the knowledge is as good as dead. It is like a donkey carrying a load and not knowing what it's carrying. Now the question comes, how do we let go of these defects, these doshas? How to let go of desire? How to let go of greed, of anger? How do we let go of it? Here in verse number 58, Swami Vidyaranya ji gives us an insight. Kamyadi doṣa-dṛṣṭyādyaha kamadityaga-hetavaha prasiddho moksha-śāstrēṣu tānanvishya sukhi bhava. He says here, kamyadi doṣa-dṛṣṭyādyaha. The keyword here is doṣa-dṛṣṭi. By drishti here means examining, perceiving, dosha, the defects of kamya. Kamya here means the objects of desire. by perceiving the defects of objects of desire, kamadityaga hetavaha. These are the ways. Hetavaha. Hetavaha means the ways, the means to tyaga, to let go of kama, etc., desire, etc. Prasiddhaha, and this is well known, moksha shastreshu, in the scriptures dealing with moksha, like the Upanishads or the Bhagavad Gita. This is well known there. Tan anvishya, and therefore tan, those scriptures, look at them, those scriptures and even those defects, anvishya, really examine them, really think about them. Sukhi bhava, and therefore be happy. The scriptures dealing with liberation proclaim that these urges of passion can be overcome by constantly thinking over the fettering nature of objects of desire. Adopt these means and conquer the passions and be happy. This is something that all seekers need to do. Doṣa-dṛṣṭi, examine the defects. And examining the defects is not a bad thing. It's a means to see the limitations of an object or a person experience. Desires, we know there are three main ones. There's Viteshana, there's Putreshana, Lokeshana. Viteshana is the desire for wealth, wealth and power. Putreshana is the desire for companionship. And the next one is Lokeshana, is the desire for name, fame. When we are in our spiritual life as seekers, these desires are not inherently bad if we know how to approach them. For example, first we'll take wealth. The right way to approach wealth is to use it as a means for seeking deeper. Because let's face it, even to have this class, we need some amount of wealth. We need some amount of comfort, of resources. Right? We need Zoom, we need the internet, we need a stable, a safe place to stay. We need to be able to eat food. We need to be able to have a home, have a job, have some security, or have some support. But wealth is not regarded as bad in itself. What is regarded something that's defective or something that can obstruct us is the way in which we view wealth. If we view wealth and if we obtain it to nurture our spiritual growth and to support those around us without hoarding it and without being very extravagant in pleasures, then it can help us. But the minute we misuse wealth, there are so many defects there. What are the defects? When we take wealth and we store it just for our own sake, the mind is constantly tensed and worried. We become miserly, worried, where is this wealth going to go? Where will I keep it? Where will I store it? Are my investments going to go up? Are they going to go down? One is constantly plagued by so much worry because of the wealth that is stored. And therefore, the mind is captured. The mind has no space to think about spirituality. It's just thinking about what's happening to the money the whole time. What's happening to the money? And if one takes that wealth and just spends extravagantly, just because they have so much money, just extravagantly spend, they often cross the boundaries of dharma. Now, we've seen so many people that they just spend on anything and everything, and they linger in greed, they linger in lust, they linger in passion because they feel like they have all this money, let them spend it and indulge. And of course, when they're indulging, their mind is not thinking of something higher, it's thinking of all these objects. The mind is completely captured in that. Therefore, that wealth, if it's misused, there's so many defects to it. And sometimes when people also have a lot of wealth, there's a feeling of entitlement. That because I'm so powerful, I'm so wealthy, I can get away with all of these things. And they get away with everything, right? They get away with this, with that, with everything because of that wealth and power. And there's nothing to stop them. So they cross all the boundaries of dharma. That desire for wealth as the goal, as something to fulfill me, as something to give me happiness, that in itself is defective. But desire for wealth as a means to go inward, that is a way of purification. The second one, putreshana, the desire for companionship. The same way, the desire to have a family as a means to grow inward, as a means on the spiritual journey to expand oneself, to decrease the ego, to rise above one's likes and dislikes, that's very helpful. But this can also go the other way when people see the family as the end goal. My family is the end goal. And what happens is people get too attached. People get too dependent on each other and have so many expectations which will not get fulfilled. Because people grow, they change, they become different. And sometimes also the parents try to impose and control the children and feel like the children should fulfill their goals, their dreams, and it becomes about just expanding their ego through their children or grandchildren. This becoming dependent, being attached, having so many expectations. And then when the children are gone, or when that person in your life whom you truly love is gone, then one is empty and doesn't know what to do. That is a defect. But on the other hand, if we see family as a beautiful means to spiritual growth, then one can approach family life with great sense of detachment. That this is my way of growing, my way of loving, of giving, of understanding. And there's so many things I can learn from this. And that can be very beautiful. Then we come to the third desire, which is of name and fame. Now, when name and fame, when that is, again, that's a means. When that is seen as a means to grow and unfold, that can be very beautiful. So some people want to acquire a good name or fame because they want to have a position where they can help people. Maybe a position in the government or the position in some company where they can help people, where they can serve, where they can give, where they can contribute in some way. And this again is their way of spiritual unfoldment. That's also fine, right? But when somebody just wants name and fame just to boost their own ego, then that's very problematic. And so many defects are there when people become too famous. There's no personal life. The whole life is an open book. And there's no privacy in the sense that everywhere they go, they're approached. Can you sign an autograph? Can you take a picture? All questions come. They've no break. There was one doctor, he said to his lawyer friend, he said, I have a problem. Everybody knows I'm a doctor. So everywhere I go, people are asking me medical advice. Even if I go to a party, they're asking me medical advice. I go to a party, I go to a gathering, I go here, I go there. Everyone's asking me medical advice. What do I do? The lawyer says, yes, I experience the same thing. Everybody asks me advice on law. So the doctor says, then what do you do? Lawyer says, well, I send them a bill and they shut up and they never ask me again. And the doctor says, that's pretty good advice. And after a couple of days, the doctor receives a bill from the lawyer. Right? So that's the thing. When we see the limitations of these desires then makes us think twice. Is it really worth desiring that? Is it really worth it? And actually, the very thing that we desired for so long, at some point we just want to get rid of it. I really wanted this position. I really wanted it. After that gets so overwhelming, I don't want it. I really want to be in this friend group. I want to be in this social network. After a while, I just want to get out of it. I don't want anything to do with it. The very thing we desire, now we're thinking how to get rid of that. We don't want it anymore. It just takes this. It's that deep reflection of what's happening with all of these desires. And just think, if I get this, will I really be happy? And for how long? Just think about it. Will I really be happy, and for how long? And then we begin to understand, hey, that's probably not worth all of this. Because once a desire comes, the whole attention is there, effort is there, the mind is totally captured. It's totally captured. So look at the defects of desire. Look at this. And if we do that, we will feel that vairagya, that dispassion towards having that desire. How we will feel that I don't need it anymore. It's not worth it. It's not worth our peace of mind. One very beautiful thing also we saw this in the Gita class. In the story of Prahlada was a great devotee of Bhagavan. He says a line there that, look, sorrow comes to our life without us working for it. Nobody here works for sorrow. Right? Nobody puts forth effort to get sorrow. Let me put forth effort to get sorrow. Let me work a job to get sorrow. Let me do this to get sorrow. Nobody does, right? But sorrow comes anyway. Therefore, joy will also come anyway. We don't need to put forth effort to get joy, because actually it will come. Just like sorrow just comes without us working for it, joy will come because it's all part of our karma. Therefore, the wise people just live and perform their dharma, and whatever comes, it comes. So even this desiring for joy doesn't make sense, actually. Doesn't make sense, because sorrow will just come. No, joy will also just come. Now, this person says, I'm convinced. Okay, I will drop this, desire. I will drop this desire. I will examine the defects and drop this desire, because this is tīvra jīva sṛṣṭi. This is the strong jīva sṛṣṭi. But why not let me indulge in the weak jīva sṛṣṭi, in manorajya, in dwelling on objects? Why not let me indulge in that? What's the harm in a little bit of daydreaming or imagining that I could get something or be something or attain a certain position? What's the harm in it? Well, that's what we'll see now in verse 59. Tyajyatameva kamadihi manorajye tu kakshatihi ashesha doshabhijatvat kshatir bhagavaterita. Tyajyata. He says, all right, tyajyata. Let me let go. Tyajyatameva. Fine. I'll let go of what? Kamadihi. Kama. Desire and all that comes with desire. A desire. Remember, desire. Once we have desire, we have 6 gangsters. They come. Right? Desire is a ringleader. And if we get what we want, greed. If we get what we want, pride. They all come. If we don't get what we want, what happens? Anger. And if we don't, and if somebody else gets it, jealousy. And the whole time we're deluded. So these 6 gangsters, they all come together. They all come together because chances are we won't get what we want. Because, supply is limited, demand is high. So he says, I'll let go of these 6 gangsters. Fine. Manorajye tu kakshatihi. Kakshatihi. What is the harm in manorajya? Manorajya literally means the entertainment of the mind, dwelling on objects, dreaming of objects. What is the harm in that? The Vedanta says there's harm. Ashesha dosha bijatvat. It is the bija, it is the seed of ashesha dosha, of all defects. This dwelling on objects, imagining on objects, that's the seed of all defects. Kshatihi, it is harmful. It causes harm. Bhagavata irita. And this is said by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So he says, objection, all right, let defects such as the impact of passions be removed. But what is the harm in letting imagination play on the object of desire? Reply, such mental preoccupation with objects of desire is the very seed of all evils. So says Lord Krishna. And we saw this in a few classes ago when we introduced the concept of manorajya. Now we'll revisit this again. We're going to read the verse 60 and 60a. This is given in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verses 62 and 63. And it's very commonly known as the ladder of fall. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha Sangasteshu pajayate, sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodho bhijayate, krodhat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha, buddhinashat pranashyati. How does a ladder of fall start? And I'm going to share my slide again. It's a very easy way to remember. It's da, 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 da. That's an easy way to remember here. Once you remember, you think about it like this, you'll never forget. And we'll also be able to catch ourselves. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. That's the first step, is when we dwell on an object. So what happens here in this dwelling on an object? There's something that attracts our attention. Either dwelling on something, a position, on something that we want to attain. We dwell on it, let's say. Just think about it. Just think about it. And it enters our mind. So entering our mind is not a big deal, but if it enters it again and again and again, and we keep thinking about it, that's a problem right there. If our mind is captured by a particular object, know that that's a problem right there, because I forgot that I am the source of joy. I am now thinking of something else as a source of joy. And that sangaha teshu pajayate, step 2 is attachment. This is now where we think that this object will make me happy. This position, if I get it, I will be happy. I will be really happy. And these two are the manorajya. They're the mind dwelling. This is the seed of the problem. There's a seed right here. Once I have the notion that this object will make me happy, this position, this experience, a desire will arise. Then this is sangat sanjayate kamaha, desire. So D-A-D. And if we don't get it, anger. We're very, very angry. Kamat krodho bijayate, anger. And in anger, we all know what happens. It's delusion. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. We lose a sense of right and wrong. We don't even know what we're saying to whom. We just lose the sense. Just very words that are not good. They all just come out of us. All actions which we don't really mean to do, they come out because we don't have any more control. We're deluded. That anger makes us lose control. We lose the sense of what is right, what is wrong. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha. And that delusion, it as I said, it makes us forget. We have amnesia. We forget everything that we learned. When we're angry, we're not thinking, oh, the Bhagavad Gita says, be patient. Oh, the Bhagavad Gita says, this is probably happening because I was dwelling on an object. It doesn't think like that. We forget everything. We forget our dearest and deepest relationships sometimes. Sometimes somebody would have done so many wonderful things for us, and all we focus on is the flow, is that flow at the moment. They've done so many wonderful things, we just focus on that flow and we lose it completely. Then it says here, smriti bhramshat buddhinashaha. There's the destruction of the intellect. When memory is gone, the intellect cannot work anymore. Intellect cannot work because intellect judges based on memory. So I know this is right, this is wrong based on my past experiences. But if my memory is gone, it's not functioning because of my delusion, then I can't think straight. But when the intellect is gone, it has no access to any memory, it's gone, annihilation. I act like an animal. Buddhinashat pranashyati. We become like an animal. And this is how we fall. We fall exactly this way. So sometimes we might think that, it's not so bad dwelling on an object and thinking about it and having this thought, hey, if I get this, I'll be happy. Be very careful. Be very careful because that could form into a desire. And as I said earlier, some might say, well, what if you don't get a desire, we get angry. But remember, if we get what we desire, we become greedy or we become proud. And in that also we become deluded. Greed makes us deluded. Pride makes us deluded. And if we see the amount of anger we have, it depends on how much we desire that object. So if we desired it little bit, just little bit, then the anger would be very little. But if the desire was so strong, that anger is going to be so incredibly strong. It's so incredibly strong. Therefore, there is something to be said about just dwelling on objects of the world. It can lead to all of this. And in Viveka Chudamani, reminds me of a verse there. It said that dwelling on sense objects is even more dangerous than a black cobra. Why? Because a black cobra has to bite us. Then only we get poisoned. But with sense objects, they don't even have to, we just have to see them. We just have to see them. They don't have to bite us or anything. Just seeing them, we can get poisoned. They're more dangerous than a black cobra. So what is the solution here? The solution for kama, desire, etc. was doṣa-dṛṣṭi, seeing the defects. What is the solution for manorajya, for daydreaming, dwelling on objects? That we will see next week. Okay? So I'll just summarize what we did today. Swami Vidyaranya ji tells this person, please don't be like a pig living in a pigsty. where a pigsty, this person is like a pig, because a pig lives in physical filth. But the one who has a glimpse of knowledge is still living in mental filth. The best thing to do is to purify that mind. Well, how do you do it? See the defects in desired objects. See the defects in whatever we desire and really think through it. And then that person says, okay, fine, I see the defects and I will let go of desire. But why should I let go of this daydreaming, dwelling on objects? Why? And the Vedanta says, well, because it is the root, it is the seed of all this sorrow. It is the seed of all of these harmful things. How is it the seed? Do you have proof? Yes, it's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's the letter for da, 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 da. When we have one dwelling, and we don't nip it in the bud, so many things will come after that, inevitably, and we will fall. Right? Okay, we stop here. Just say the closing prayer. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.